Hi, and welcome to Tennis Volley Talk. Hey, today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going and doing an over-the-phone interview with kind of an interesting little place, uh, Jonah Rosenberg. Now, the thing is that he is one of the curators then at Arader Galleries in New York, right in Manhattan, correct?
That's right, yeah, on Manhattan's Upper East Side, Madison Avenue.
Yeah, okay. And I just wanted to say that I have to give you, I was there for the US Open tennis back in September, but I have to say that I appreciate all the hospitality that the New Yorkers gave to me for being an out-of-towner. Ran into one of your colleagues, like I said, Michael Harper, one night after I was coming back and braving the subway from U.S. Open in Queens, uh, that somebody decided to jump on the track, so I had to try to wingle my way back to the hostel that I was at, and ran into Michael, and I was telling him about my tennis podcast, and he said, "Well, you're one of the people to get a hold of on this," and with the Arader Galleries there, basically kind of founded in 1971, but you guys tend to be one of the leading auction house uh, of like rare maps and prints and books of that nature.
That's right. So we sort of wear multiple hats. We're a regular retail gallery, and we're also an auctioneer, and we have an auction coming up on the 23rd of November. So we have those maybe 5 or 6 times a year, but for the other 360 odd days, we are a retail gallery, and so my job as the head of the rare book department is to catalog and care for the material in our collection, but that also includes maps, prints, and watercolors.
Oh my gosh, that's almost kind of sounds like one of the show with all the maps and books and everything, almost kind of like the TV show The Librarians, almost.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild place, and I hope that you will feel welcome to come, and so will your listeners.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure. I kind of one of these things that I kind of do that I kind of find the little off the wall kind of things to talk about with, but still involved with tennis in a sense. Now, how did you yourself? I mean, were you like when you were growing up? Did you just get into books because you couldn't go outside, or you played outside, but you just kind of got interested in books and the adventure of it all?
Yeah, I was a bookish kid. I actually grew up about a 15-minute walk from Flushing Meadows. So I was in the shadow of the U.S. Open my whole life and went. But yeah, much as my father got me to try and play tennis, I was more interested in the books. After I did my doctorate in classics at Oxford, I came back to New York and started to work in the book trade. And I've been at Arader for about 4 years now. And because of the nature of what we sell, which is principally natural history, Americana, cartography, and exploration, I've had to learn about all of this material. The tennis aspect has to do with our founder and owner, Graham Arader, who was a very talented squash player from his college days, where he played number 1 for Yale, and ranked nationally. And so his love of books and his love of racket sports, he still plays squash quite regularly, has led to this rather extraordinary collection of tennis books.
Wow, that is amazing in itself. Of course, then, with that kind of the squash ability, plus I'm sure that he probably picked up a tennis racket or two in his day too. So, he kind of like having that passion of the racket sport in a sense, kind of led him to start collecting that kind of stuff. Now, overall, how many tennis books do you have in the rare part of it that you do?
I would say around 100. Some of them are multiple examples of the same book. So I've brought out 3 books. I know that your listeners can't see, but I'm a very visual person, so I have them right here on my desk in front of me.
Oh, good, cool.
And the last one that I'll talk about, which is Nolan Clark's History of Tennis, we have probably 6 or 8 examples of that, and it's still quite a desirable book, so much so that Duckworth reprinted it in 1991. So, yeah, it's quite the trove.
Oh, that really sounds interesting. Now, are the books like the first edition copies then of when they were written or done at the time that they were?
Yeah, exactly. So our oldest tennis book, and I know that for sure because it's the first book on tennis, dates from 1555.
Oh my goodness!
So the books are pretty old.
That is correct. That is old. My gosh, I wouldn't even thought that they would be talking about any kind of tennis back in, publishing something back that far back on tennis.
Yeah. So in a lot of cases, the line between tennis and other racket and palm sports is a little blurry.
Mm-hmm.
So the name of the game in the book from 1555 is Gioco della Palla, which just means ball game.
Mm-hmm.
But the illustrations and the description makes clear that this is court tennis.
Okay.
And so this is the origins of the sport, and there are indeed references to rackets and depictions of rackets.
No,
so
okay.
This, any tennis player would look at this book or these illustrations
mm-hmm.
and immediately recognize something about which they were passionate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then even back as early as like early 1800s, they had like the original court tennis is what they did, which is kind of very much like racquetball, and you play it off the walls, but it comes, you have to hit it over the net, and you serve it with the rackets, and it's kind of a harder ball, but it's kind of in that respect too, which is also kind of the precursor to what regular tennis started out to be.
That's right, yeah. And so the second book I have in front of me is indeed 18th century. So it's 1767, Garceau's Art du Premier Racquetier, and it's to do with the making of tennis rackets and also the playing of the game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Going back to that first book that I mentioned,
sure.
Nolan Clark's History of Tennis,
mm-hmm.
It's so rare that in their bibliography, they note Mr. Clark and Mr. Knoll are among the few collectors who have a copy of de Garceau's book. It is excessively rare. So yeah, we specialize in these very rare and important old books.
And very well that you have to preserve the aspect of the rarity that talks about the first beginnings of racket sports and evolving into the tennis game that we have today.
Absolutely.
And
everything is fundamentally a revision of what's come before. So
mm-hmm.
Nolan Clark is building on Marshall's Annals of Tennis from 1878, which in turn was building on a long series of histories of the game,
mm-hmm.
because it has been played so widely and by such interesting people right from the beginning. So
mm-hmm.
the Scaino, that 1555 Trattato del Gioco della Palla, came about because Scaino was working for the Duke of Este, and there was a dispute about the rules because, of course, the rules were specific to each individual court.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were traveling to play with the Duke's son, you would argue about the rules because there was no standard. And so this is the beginning of creating a community of players who all abide by the same rules so that they can play competitively.
Oh, okay, that for sure. And then with that too, having having that aspect of the different ways of how it progressed over the years tends to be and plus the making of tennis rackets too back then, back in the early days when it was a kind of a flatter top, of a racket, and how they strung them, with cowgut or catgut, back in the day, and stuff, and then gradually worked into like the nylon and the synthetic guts that they have today, and then the modern rackets that they have today, and then having the aspect of of the rackets and how they were made through the years too, really is an interesting aspect of it. To myself, I mean, I have a racket collection of over 250 rackets myself, and some of them, and one of the oldest I have is March 8th, 1908, called the Dreadnought Driver racket. So one of the ones that if you look on my YouTube channel, for all the YouTubers out there, you'll see the racket, portion of my racket collection in the background. When you look up under the tennis volley talk on YouTube, watching the episode here, and that's what you'll see. But I have a quite older collection of rackets that I've collected over the years too.
Wow, yeah. I'm sure you love the Degarceau. I'm looking now at an engraving showing 3 racket makers in a workshop, and you see there's a rack behind them with all of the ones that they've already finished. But one is creating the strings, one is threading the strings through the head of the racket, and the third is planing down the handle. And so it's incredible to think of these sort of workshops of racket makers as early as 1767. But then, racket sports were so important in France. And of course, that's why the tennis court oath at the beginning of the French Revolution was such a crucial moment.
Well, that's true. And then kind of basically it all starting in France with kind of the court itself dimensions were kind of like an hourglass in a sense, until it finally went to the regular court that we see dimensions now, but yet starting out in a lot earlier with tennis back in France, before it was modernized, coming to the U.S. and being a little bit different than what it started out in France at the time. But yeah, the being as old as it, starting out in France is just amazing in itself, and knowing that it is that old because it started back then in France, in that area.
Yeah, it's a fascinating aspect of the game to look at its evolution, and especially to see that evolution illustrated. We can read all we want, and it doesn't matter if you can't read Italian or French, but you can look at the pictures. And I've seen tennis players, and not court tennis players, but modern lawn tennis players, who look at the book, and it's like plugging their finger into an electrical socket. They're just sort of filled with excitement and wonder.
I can almost imagine that if a tennis player looking at a book like that would have a smile on their face, like, wow, I'm looking at such history here, which they're glad that you preserved for the history to see.
Yeah, so I'm really proud to look after this collection and to bring it into the hands of collectors who really would connect with it and show it to their friends, because ultimately that's how this is going to be preserved for the next 450 odd years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Through passionate individual collectors.
Oh, absolutely so. And now, without being, too much with that, if somebody was to try to purchase one of those books, and you do have them for sale though, for collectors to buy though, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just on a roundabout, if somebody was to purchase one of those books, how much would they be purchasing one of them for?
Yeah, well, there's a big old range. At the very top of it is that 1555 Scaino, which is one of the rarest and most desirable books on the subject. That's $42,000.
Wow.
But some of the later 20th century material is down in the 100 or two. And so there's and sort of everything in between.
Oh gosh.
So for collectors who are at different stages in their lives or in their collecting, we really love to help people develop their passion
Oh,
in the history of the
absolutely.
sport.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and then with that, I mean, like I said, I was in New York and was there for the Fan Appreciation Week for the U.S. Open in September. So I got a chance to see top 10 tennis players and then be able to experience where that was all at Flushing Meadows, and it was just an amazing experience too. And had the experience to be able to go see West Side Tennis Club in Forest Hills, New York too.
Right.
And with that, it was just amazing. Of course, then Forest Hills being the original site of the U.S. Open before they went to Flushing Meadows. But amazing trip in itself that I had, and with the people that were helping me on the subway, and just incredibly nice people all the way around, that I had an incredible experience being in New York and for the first time myself.
Oh, well, that's great. I know New Yorkers have a bit of a gruff reputation, but I'm glad that they did the right thing and welcomed people. And I'm a native New Yorker, and I'll give you a very warm welcome.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm probably, thinking about probably I'll have to do this trip again. And then I have another something to go see, and then come in and see you and be able to see some of the older rare tennis books too.
That'll be a real pleasure for me. And I look forward to welcoming you and anyone who's listening.
That's true. And basically I know the subway a little bit and how to get there now. So I know how to get to Manhattan through the subway and through Grand Central Station too. So I did see Grand Central Station, which was actually, what a sight that is. The movies and TV. Yeah, movies and TVs don't do it justice. Until you're there, you then realize how big that place is. And then I actually went to the fourth floor, and I saw the Vanderbilt Tennis Club and saw the tennis court on the fourth floor.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun little thing that I did before I went to go see the U.S. Open, or the getting in there, and that week, and it was really a fun little adventure that I took. So now I know how to get to Manhattan, and I can look for you, because I'm sure that it's not that all big of a place to try to walk around and find where you're at.
No, not at all. If you're on your way to the Met, you'll walk right past us.
Oh, cool! That sounds really cool. And I know that would that would definitely be one of the things I would have to look forward to when I get there next time. Probably next year is when I'll do it. I'll, and then see what happens and keep in touch that way. So I have a chance to be able to come and see those rare tennis books, and seeing the rich history and the pictures and how things were done. And like you said, back then, or in the UK and France and everything, is kind of where it all kind of started, with being more of the older part of it, as how it started before, like I said, it came to the US and was modernized somewhat when it came to us in 1893 or 4 or something like that, starting tennis here.
Right.
And
so it all, I guess, sort of flows together.
Yeah, it does kind of flow together all the way around and everything. But no, I just wanted to, I'm just glad that I was able to talk to a historian like you, to be able to give some insight with some of the rare tennis books that you have. And, but, I just appreciate the time for you to be on Tennis Volley Talk. And when the episode breaks and is up, then you can actually watch the episode too, if you want to.
Great. I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, and
it's called. Sounds really exciting.
Yeah. And I do thank you very much for joining me on Tennis Volley Talk today. And I wish you all the best, and keep on protecting those rare books and maps. And
Thanks for having me.
all right. Thank you so much, Jonah. You have a great day.
Take care.
All right.
Bye, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was it with the interview there with the rare book guy at Arader Galleries in Manhattan, in New York. What an amazing history in what he had there, and is that old. It was amazing. But for you YouTubers, yeah, if you like, subscribe and make a comment on what you like, and see, with what I do. And I liked really doing this interview. It was really fun to do. And then you podcasters, you're going to hear about Racket of the Day here pretty soon, and you'll be able to see, if you want to take a look at what I'm going to be talking about with the Racket of the Day, then you can hear about that, and see what the racket is. But anyway, the Racket of the Day, it doesn't have any manufacturer form on it, but it has a brass ring on it, which then puts it at around the 1930s, maybe 40s, right in that area. And with that, it is more or less kind of, I'd say probably about the 1930s, or about late 1920s, 30s, right into the 40s. Has the gut string on it, but it's a very nice, colorful wood with it. It's double with the throat of it here, and with the ribbon, this part here. And so with that, it's a very nicely made racket here. With that, and it's a harder wood. It's not wrapped. It has the wood handle. They used to have the wrap on it, I'm sure. But yeah, it doesn't have any kind of a, as far as any kind of a manufacturer on it, that way. So it's kind of hard to know who made it. But it does look like it was very well made, with the two separate kind of woods here, and then the wood handle, which is in that respect, with the red part of it right here on the handle here. They put a different color with it, and with the darker wood right as the throat, to give it a little bit more stability. But with the brass screw, that then that is around about the late 1920s or in through the 30s that you have with that. So you podcasters, if you want to take a look at that, go to my Tennis Volley Talk on YouTube. And then you YouTubers, if you do like whatever I'm talking about, be sure and like, subscribe, and take it from there. So everybody this week, get out there and play if you can still play outside, or if you can't, then play inside. It's getting a little bit here in Minnesota. It's getting a little bit craziness with the colder coming. There might be a few days where it can be played outside, as long as there's nets up here. So everybody, have a good week, and thank you for letting me come in and talk to you about tennis today. Everybody have a good week. Thank you.